Hi, Miriam. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Miriam Munezero, and I'm the current chairperson of Think Africa. Um, Think Africa, perhaps many of you might not know of it or have heard of it. And so Think Africa is a nonprofit organization, and we have been in operation for 5 years now. And we are an organization that engages and promotes and empowers the African diaspora here, but also enhances the collaboration between Finland and African countries. We organize a lot of activities and events that are geared towards this. And we also have, or what is unique about us, first in that we represent not just a single African country or region, but we present the whole continent. So anything that uh, relates to Africa, we are involved in it, and especially when it meets our mission or it is to our members' interest. And we have what we do for our members, because we welcome all members or all individuals or organizations who are interested in our mission to join. We provide a platform for them to sort of fulfill their wishes or interest and to grow their skills under that platform, having an official organizational representation. And entrepreneurship has always been a key focus of Think Africa, because we see it as a way to empower people. And we have organized several events with different partners. We also we have collaborated with, for example, Slush, organizing Slush side events. Unfortunately, this year, as Slush is cancelled, we don't have that collaboration for this year. But so that has always been something we do. And so we look for different ways in which we can empower our members, the African diaspora and immigrants here in Finland, for them to take an active role here in Finland, and as well as contribute back to the countries in which they come from. So that's a little bit about us in Think Africa. We welcome everyone who is interested to take part, to join us and make an impact. And I will leave Gilbert here, who is the host of this meeting. He's one of our members. He's an entrepreneur himself, and I'm glad to see him sort of leading this club. And we hope that it's something that you all find beneficial. Gilbert here will tell more about what is the mission and the objectives of the club. So I'll leave it to you, Gilbert, next. Then if there are any questions also for me regarding Think Africa, then we can take them later. Yeah. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, so you want to take the questions later?
Or if somebody has now, I could have one or two questions. If somebody has. All right. So perhaps if there are none, then I'll leave the floor to you, Gilbert. Mm.
Okay.
Before
Mm.
can I just say something, please? This Andy, Luxury Andy. I hope you get me there, please. Maybe we can give you some question later before the seminar ends. So I'm trying to think about some question that you were talking. So maybe I will press my point now. I will send the question again over.
That would be great, Andy. Yeah, no
Yeah.
worries. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Miriam, for that intro on Think Africa. So moving forward, yeah, I'm moderating this event. And just a quick introduction of myself. Yeah, I'm based in Finland, and I joined Think Africa officially fall of last year. So one of the reasons why I joined was to like contribute to Think Africa, because each time I attended the events, they was talking about businesses, businesses, businesses. So I thought probably I should join them and see what I can add to them as value. So the vision of this Afro Finland Business Club is to bring together under one roof businesses run by people of African descent. So what we're going to do gonna come in different stages. So starting with this webinar, this is gonna go on, I mean, as long as we're in a lockdown state, because I think we need each other now even more than before. Then already ongoing is the building of a database of the African-run businesses that are here in Finland. So we're going to do it in the form of a survey, hand out questionnaires, and actually talk to the different businesses and see how we can add value to them. Because we don't actually have this data anyway, and we can have this data and analyze it, then we can know in which best possible way we can connect with these businesses and help them get to that next level. Then following that, we'll be having online and also on-site meetings, so we can come together and form a business club. Then we can go ahead and build that chemistry, have joint ventures and partnerships as well. I think with the formation of this club also is gonna go a long way to help like the Finnish businesses that wanna do business in Africa, and also the African entrepreneurs that wanna find partners here in Finland. And I think this aligns perfectly with the goals of Think Africa. So if you want to link up with me, I'm on LinkedIn. I have my link there. Or you can also just message me on Skype and we can get to talk more about this. Now, we are still in the starting phase of this African club, and we'll need help from each and every African club here in Finland. So because to collect this data, it's not easy to just go online and extract the information. So we have to do it the old way, which means someone has to collect the data and then pass it on to Think Africa. Then we can get it on the database and actually later on talk to these people. So at the moment, we need help with that. We've had already 17 businesses, contacts for 17 businesses. So we're working right now on the questionnaires. So we want to make sure as we get each contact, then we can just hand out the questionnaire and see that they get to answer it, and then we can start analyzing the data as soon as it comes in. So that's it about Afro Business Club. And if there are any questions, please just write them down, and then at the end of this webinar, then we'll get to answer them. And there's a little surprise if we got a little bit time for this webinar. There is a game to be played at the end of this webinar. I hope everyone is excited to play the game. So it's a coronavirus game, just to help people, get relaxed and get to have more fun. So I'll go ahead and introduce these speakers for the day. So we're privileged that we're joined by 4 speakers. I mean, they've traveled the world and they're on board today. They're here today to share their best practices and what is it that they are doing that other entrepreneurs can learn. So we have Elena Vidili. Yeah, she's joining us from Italy. Then there is Reggie Rusan, sorry about that. He's here in Finland. There's Solomon, also here in Finland, and there's Anthony, so joining us from South Africa at the moment. My distinguished speakers, you are welcomed. So each of them is going to have 20 minutes, so it'll be questions and answers, but first I'll give them the time to say more about themselves and what is it that they do. So we'll get started with Elenia Vidili. Yeah, Elenia, can you hear me?
You need to unmute her.
Yeah, I think it's been just a second. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hello. Good to hear you now. Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you everyone for listening. So I'll give a little bit of background of myself. My name is Elenia Vidili. I'm currently staying at my country home in Sardinia in Italy. But I normally live in between Milan and London. So I'm quite enjoying this calm around me, to be honest. It's quite enjoyable. So just to give you a little bit of my background, I worked as a corporate marketer for nearly a decade for big and small companies. And then 2 years ago, I decided to take the leap and start my own business, which is what I'm currently running. Today, I am a customer experience expert and speaker. I help companies improving their customer experience through consulting, strategy, and training programs. So that's where I am right now. Can you hear me okay? I just wanted to double check before I start properly.
Yeah, I get you 5 on 5.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so do you think it's a case of explaining what customer experience is before I go ahead, Gilbert?
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay, excellent. So would you like to go through the questions, or shall I just go ahead? How do you want me to?
Well, if you can take maybe 30 seconds to talk a little bit about the customer experience, and after that I can follow up with questions.
Excellent. So, well, anyway, so you know, because you attended one of my sessions, so well, thank you so much about that. But just to give a bit of insights of customer experience is basically the outcome of an interaction between an organization and a customer over the duration of the relationship. So in other words, it's basically the perception that a customer has of you, the brand, across the customer journey, before, during, and after purchase. That is basically what customer experience is. So if you buy at a shop, for example, or even if you think about buying a pair of socks, then you go on the website, you look for a nice pair of socks, and then your experience starts there, just by thinking about which brand you are going to buy the socks from. And then you go to the shop, or you buy directly from the store, and then that is during the purchase. Then you buy the socks, and then you have the after purchase relationship and experience as well. So that's basically customer experience. Hopefully I've given you a short explanation.
Yeah, that was really clear.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, so we can move on to the Q&A session.
Sure.
Yeah, so how has the pandemic, affected your work?
So as I said, my work includes a lot of traveling, moving around, attending conferences as a speaker, and also as an attendee. But especially I travel a lot because I need to visit companies to deliver my consultancy and my experience trainings. So as you can imagine, my work has been quite affected by all this. And it's been and is a difficult time because I guess not many people have been prepared about this. And so how have I managed, and what have I learned? Well, I've been transferring one part of my business online. So a lot of it has been digitized, but not fully, obviously, because it's difficult to do everything remotely, right? Yeah. And of course, it's hard to digitize a whole conference. but I guess this pandemic is making us realize that we also need that. We need to digitize as much as possible. So it's been quite hard since everything is shut down, especially here in Italy. Everything is really strict right now. Hopefully things will get back to normal as soon as possible.
Okay, wow. So a lot of digitization going on now.
Well, yes, and that's what I'm going to talk about basically today. I'm going to touch a little bit upon digitalization.
Okay, and with the physical distancing measures implemented in many countries, Finland included, so how is it important for a business owner to continue interacting with your customers?
Well, I would say obviously hugely important.
Okay.
There is actually an interesting article written by the Harvard Business Review that explained this quite well. And I'd like you to have a look at it because I think it's quite interesting, and it's called How to Market in a Downturn. It was actually written in 2009, but it's still very relevant since 2009 was our last recession. So today I'd like to add a little bit more on this article, as I believe strengthening customer relationship in a downturn is massively important. And this pandemic, this tension is quite a lot, particularly for newer or smaller businesses that, yes, they can provide and they provide great products and services, but might not have the resources to survive for long periods with much less cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So I think businesses that take a proactive approach and demonstrate customer centricity will earn customer trust and build relationship. And this is the right time to do that. And customers that stay loyal with companies due to the experience they receive. So basically, in other words, if they have a positive interaction today during this crisis and continue to do so, they are going to do business with companies, with you for a long time and recommend it to others. So this is really the chance to create that loyalty, which consequently turns into customer advocacy. And I can send you the link to the, actually I can do it right now because I was reading it before I jumped in. And I can send you the link to the article if anybody is interested in reading it. It's very interesting.
You're very much welcome.
There you go.
Could you give us a quick example of like a business, like for example, the brick and mortar businesses, a restaurant, for example, how they should go about with this customer?
Yeah, so what kind of smaller, newer, let's talk about smaller, newer, and more vulnerable businesses,
Okay.
what they can do to strengthen relationships with their customers. So I believe that a lot to do is with your communication and actions with your customers. And I'm going to summarize this in 4 tips that I can recommend. So the first tip is basically, whenever there is a crisis, people tend to wait and wait until things pass along, right? Yeah. Which it will pass along eventually, but we don't have to suck up all the consequences. So I recommend, instead of waiting passively for this to pass, I recommend making the company human and present. So for example, if you already have a social presence or an email list, so make sure that you emphasize and spell out the steps you are going to take to help your customers or employees. Or for example, if you are a restaurant, you can deploy your staff to deliver the food rather than laying them off and rather than using delivery services. Okay. And this is a great strategy actually, because having a familiar face to serve you food at home, it's a way to give reassurance, comfort, and reinforces loyalty with a business. So that's my tip number 1 for creating a customer relationship, building and strengthening customer relationships. Then my second tip is educate your customers on how to interact with you. So for example, any changes, why these changes? Any local regulations that say that you need to be stuck at home and you want to share with your customers what is being going on in your business. So if you have an online store, for example, encourage your customers to purchase through it instead. So maybe facilitating your return policies, you know, come across nice with the return policies, obviously, to make the process smoother. And but if you don't have, let's say that you don't have an online store, let's say that you are a mechanic, right? And you don't have an email list. Usually mechanics don't have an email list unless they are huge businesses. But that's fine. So get your phone book, phone up your most loyal customers, talk to them and ask them if they need your services. Then you go to them. You go to their houses, you either pick up the vehicle or even fix it there. So, and I believe that this is another thing that it can really help your business to be loyal and your customers to be loyal. So it really creates that bond between the two. So, and I think that will make you lovely as a business. Another tip that I would like to share with you is I would assure your customers that the company value will continue. So every business, even a restaurant or a mechanic, has a value proposition, so a differentiator, right? So here is the right time to put in the spotlight your competitive advantage, your differentiator. Why is it still basically very important to do business with you? Why do they love you? And basically tell your customers that you will maintain that value proposition. So I believe that elaborating these points of assurance is important in reminding customers that your company's value proposition goes over the obstacles imposed by the crisis. And you can do this either by phone, or you can do this also by email, or short text, or even on social media. Lots of ways that you can do this. And my last tip for strengthening your customer relationship in times of crisis is basically that you need to embrace the opportunities of living in a chaos. Chaos presents this opportunity for innovation and for the future as well. So I'm sure your mind, everybody's mind right now has been going bonkers with thousands of ideas for survival. So while you assure your customers that your company's existing value proposition is still remaining the same, also why not telling them that what you've been thinking, what business ideas you've been thinking about? So basically make them part of the process. And that is, if you've been thinking of new products or service. So if that is the case, then reach out to your customers and potential customers as well to tell them. So for example, if you're a restaurant and there is shortage of bread around, as well as what has been going on here in Italy, why don't you bake the bread and deliver it to your customers? They will love it. I'm sure every restaurant has the phone number of their loyal customers, as loyal customers ring the restaurant and ask, can I book a table today, right? So you can also do this. There are loads of ways that you can humanize your business and ways to inject hope into their heartache. So in other words, while you wait for this to pass, which will pass with very strong consequences, so instead of being reactive, try to be proactive with your communication and actions towards your customers.
Wow. Okay. Damn, I was taking down notes, so almost half a page.
I have a tendency to speak very fast, so please tell me to slow down if I run too much.
And the speed was okay for me.
All right. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that. Let's move on to the next. I know that one of the biggest costs in, a business is the cost of acquiring a customer. And during a pandemic, like people might want to cut on the marketing budget. Yeah, so how can they cut the budget but still be visible to their customers?
That's a very interesting question, Gilbert. I would love to give you a magic wand in this. As basically, you're asking me, how can I be visible without spending money, right? So everyone would love that during a crisis, and obviously normal times as well.
Yeah.
But it's obviously very, very tough, especially because right now every business is competing for people's attention.
Yeah.
And whoever doesn't have a digital presence right now will be very hard to be digital in a digital world without investment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in the article that I sent you a little while ago, I mentioned it mentions that basically, I'm going to read it to you right now. So, because I think it's a very interesting line. So it says, during recessions, it's more important than ever to remember that loyal customers are the primary enduring source of cash flow and organic growth. Marketing isn't optional, it's a good cost, essentially to bringing in revenues from these key customers and others. And I think this is a very interesting point because business leaders and business owners, by the time there's a crisis or a downturn, they obviously, because I understand it, they tend to cut budgets and the cost, obviously. And marketing is one of the budgets that are going to cut.
Yeah.
And you might be saying this, wow, this is amazing. If I have the money coming in, of course I will invest in marketing. But if I don't have the money, how can I survive? That's a very fair question. Well, what I recommend is that, sorry, there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, let me check.
What I recommend is that businesses today, right now, should focus on strengthening the relationship with their customers and not spending time and valuable sources on other customers out there. Because I believe right now it's just going to be a waste of time. So I wouldn't focus too much on being visible as such, but on being present to my loyal customer, right? So it's basically a survival mode, okay? So don't try not to lose the relationship just because of this crisis. So leverage this crisis as an opportunity, not a threat. And a lot of companies think that they have to spend thousands of dollars in improving their customer experience and their relationship. But it is not the case. No. You basically, if you have the financial possibility to improving your customer experience using a lot of cash, that's great. But I will tell you what, your customers today will understand that you're going above and beyond for them with simple things like a phone call, a delivery, or an email, an SMS. So just try to be present. That's my most humble recommendation right now. Try to be present, and that will strengthen the relationship.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot. That was really huge. And this last question, I'm going to break it into two halves.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there another pandemic coming? Or is this the last?
Oh, are you asking me a question? I wish I do. I was going to say my experience. No, actually, it's not my experience. My feeling, my intuition, as here we have a lot of business leaders and business owners, we lead by intuition. My intuition is that there will be always pandemics and crises and downturns. We need to start thinking about how to manage those, how to stay positive, stay strong, and be prepared when these occur.
Okay.
So I think I read something some time ago, a few years ago actually, that every 10 years there is a recession. In some sort of way, whether it's a health recession like this one, or an economic one, or financial one, whichever. But there is always a recession. There isn't any stop, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think there's actually data on that, like every, I mean, every 8 to 10 years, I mean, something happens. And I mean, some of the crises is within our grasp, and some of them, I mean, there's nothing we can do, or there's a little bit of
Exactly.
we can play. So I think that's about the last question for you. And
Okay.
has anybody in the audience got a question for Elenia? Let me see. I'm gonna unmute everyone. Let's see. If you have a question, yeah, just make a sign in the chat section, and then I'm going to unmute you.
Do I have to answer the question now or later?
Well, if they have it ready now, maybe you can just take it. But
what about this strategy? There's a question here already. Okay. What about the strategy to avoiding communication to save the relationship with the next potential customer? Can you have some recommendations? So avoiding communication to save the relationship. I would concentrate on be very empathetic. And as I said, try to go above and beyond with your customers. So I wouldn't try to inject more fear in your communication. So try to be understandable, try to be empathetic, not over empathetic because it seems a bit too insincere. You know, when you receive those emails from companies that you've never heard in a lifetime, and they say, we care about you, and our customers are, no, you don't care about me, really. I've never heard from you, right? So my advice is try not to be over empathetic. You know, just try to be understandable of the situation. Try to reassure your customers. Be empathetic, but not overly, because that will sound a little way too much insincere, if you know what I mean. That's my advice. No problem. Did you have any more questions, Gilbert? I think you had a last one, didn't you?
well, I think that's the last one you just answered.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. But
I think you had one that you said I have two. One is if I was projecting, or if I was thinking of any other pandemic.
The second part of it was
oh well, okay.
How does it go? I mean, with preparing for future.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think you answered that partly, but you can say more about that. I think you still got a minute.
Yeah, let me wrap it up. Yeah, so because I think it's a good question, and I think first of all, this pandemic and any other pandemic is a wake-up call to everyone, businesses included, and I believe that this is not bad for us, but it's actually an accelerator for businesses and society of where operations and processes would have been in 10 years' time, for example. So I think this pandemic is forcing us, business owners and business leaders, to be up to speed, and and it is basically saying that we need to take advantage of these wake-up call to revise our operations. In other words, so what I'm trying to say is, if we're not in the digital world, and you should have, because you know, as a restaurant, sometimes we think, oh, I don't have to have a digital presence, you know, social media presence. Well, I think this is teaching us that we definitely have to have a digital presence. So this pandemic is saying, learn, understand, pivot, and adopt, and tackle the future. So if you thought that digital wasn't important, now you understand the importance of it. And so make sure that you prepare for the next one. And if you thought that customer relationships was some kind of important, this is your chance to learn and understand that customer-centric attitude is what people need in the time of crisis. So we need to understand this quite well. So my advice to you all is make a plan, a timeline, and reevaluate your company's processes and operations. And if you're not in a digital world, my advice is be as soon as possible. So I hope I've given you some insights and tips to use during this downturn. But I understand all your fears. I feel you, and I hope you can stay strong and you can use this to your advantage.
Are you gonna sit in here?
You don't want to join me in the conference?
Thanks. Yeah.
Maybe you can help too.
Thanks a lot. Just a second. Let's see who's.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, just to wrap up, I was going to say that unfortunately I have to leave as I'm speaking at another webinar in 15 minutes. But if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can add me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you and to get in touch, keep in touch with everyone there. And if if you'd like to know more about my business, what I do, I have a couple of mini courses that explain my basically what I do. So if you're interested, you can you're more than welcome to check it out. And next week I'm leading a webinar on customer experience entirely. So you're more than welcome to join. It's a complimentary webinar. So I hope to see you there.
Yeah, I think I saw the the event you have next week on LinkedIn. So definitely will be part of it. And for some reason, the other slide about what is it you do, what courses you offer, and trainings at this time of crisis is, for some reason, is giving me a blank. But I'll make sure I get that sorted out, and I'll share the information.
No problem.
To all the attendees.
Great. I'm really sorry. It's really bad of me. I know, but I have another webinar in 15 minutes. So I'm going to get a drop of water. Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for listening. And again, if you have any questions, please connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and the pleasure is ours.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was it from Elenia. So the information she shared with me on Harvard Business School, I'm going to share it with everybody, and also some other information about her trainings. So that said, we'll move on to the next speaker, and that's Anthony. Anthony, are you in the house? Let me unmute Anthony. Hi, Anthony, can you hear me?
Yes, Bert, hi.
Yes, so how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Okay. Are you guys in a lockdown as well in South Africa?
Very much so. Our president made it so we're in day 14 of a full lockdown. You're only allowed to travel out unless it's for essentials and or medical.
Okay. All right, so let's get started right away. So, yeah, could you share with the audience a little bit about your background? And then thereafter we'll continue with the questions and answers.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you, Bert. Firstly, just thank you, everybody. Thank you, Think Africa and Bert for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here. So yeah, hello from a sunny South Africa in Cape Town. I'm currently in South Africa, as Bert said, at my beach house in Gordons Bay. So it's very quiet, which is very strange because it's always quite busy. But I'm glad to be here rather than in cold England. So my background is I spent 20 years in the UK. Like most people, I left South Africa to travel, and I got stuck. I stayed in the UK then for 20 years, where I got married and had 2 children. When I returned to South Africa, I came back with a full house and 3 cats. But the reason for me coming back was more for a lifestyle change. And that couldn't have happened if I didn't do what I did in the UK. I worked for quite a while in the UK and was made redundant, which kind of gave me that lesson of you're not going to work for one company for a very long period of time. My dad's philosophy of, find a good job, work long, work for the same company, didn't work out for me. And I was young enough to kind of realize that at the stage. So I started looking at other alternatives, franchises, investing in stocks, etc. And I fell in love with property. So I started doing property then in 2003 and 2004. And with my now current wife, we built up a portfolio which sustained our lifestyle. So it meant that we didn't have to go and work for a particular boss anymore, a particular company. It gave us more freedom of choice. And that's what I carried on doing. What I always enjoyed was educating and helping people. And by connecting the two together, I found it very easy. So I became a mentor and a coach, mainly in property, and then also in business and consultancy work. So that's what I currently do on a day-to-day basis, and how I got to know Bert.
Yeah, so thanks for that background information. And just to let everyone know, like Anthony was my mentor for real estate in the UK. So he's been contracted by the Rich Dad Poor Dad Academy. It's in US, I think in 6 other countries.
Correct.
And also with sourcing investments in the UK. So I couldn't think of a better mentor. So let me jump straight into Q&A. So, I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, we're facing a crisis right now, and how has that impacted you? I mean, your real estate business and work?
Definitely. I mean, it's a very, very good question, and it was very interesting because when I first thought about property, it was going to be a long-term plan, and we were going to just live off the income we have and retire in South Africa. I never thought we'd have this kind of effect on the property. I never thought a pandemic being all over the world at the same time and affecting us this badly. So from a real estate point of view, it was a bit scary to. Firstly, the first news that came about was from Scotland when they announced that you couldn't, as a landlord, evict someone during this crisis, which is understandable. But it made me wonder then how this affects everything else, because if the person's not paying rent, you normally then go through eviction. Now, my team always goes and speaks to the tenants first to make sure that there's, if there's a way we can solve this problem. But in a situation where everybody's on lockdown or they can't go to work, we're all in the same position. So that information came out more through the government. And so for us, it's loss of rents, client uncertainty. So less clients are buying, therefore less clients are studying. We also have a general slowdown. There's still surveyors going out. There are still houses being sold, but you have to now start applying for permission or only for extreme cases or people allowed to go and view properties. So how long will this last for? This is the concern with real estate, and how will this affect us long term? And so for us, that was quite a difficult thing to acknowledge. Fortunately for me, because I was thinking of moving to South Africa, I wanted everything to be more online or more distributed within my team. So I started putting things in place about 1.5 years ago in order to have things running more smoothly online, which has helped us out quite a lot. So large parts of my portfolio are managed by agents, giving me guaranteed rents, etc. And then from a work point of view, similar to the first speaker, I travel quite a lot. I do live mentoring in the UK, travel to Hong Kong and Australia. That's all been put on hold until August. But again, enjoying living in South Africa, enjoying the lifestyle, online seemed to be the natural way to go. So we've been working on that. But to be fair, too much hot weather, too much sun has left me not focus on that. And there's still a lot of work to be done. So this is a time to focus on that and get that fully running on online.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, at this time of a pandemic, do you see opportunities? I mean, and how can one take advantage of it? I mean, in the real estate world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad thing sometimes when you think about, obviously with what's going on, that there's advantages. But as businesses, it's an advantage where we can help people move forward too. So not only from a business point of view, helping the fellow man out there, but also then, earning cash and reward for that. For me, it's identifying the need in the area or your field. That's what I'll be saying to most businesses, and then find the solution. And so a very good example for me is, if we look at South Africa, South Africa was very strict. Unlike the UK, no takeaways were allowed. You can only go to retailers or medical suppliers. So a lot of restaurants had to close down. I know in Hong Kong, you can still go to a restaurant, but it's only 50% capacity. So they're not in the same kind of lockdown. So these guys are sitting in a position where they have a business, a restaurant, but they can't do anything. Now, what I would have done if I was them is, one, offer a service as in home cooked meals. If you can then show the government that there's a need to supply this to older people or more vulnerable people, then they will allow you to do so. Another person that I would be looking at is the delivery drivers. I'd be connecting now with the big retailers, the medical companies, and helping them deliver. The biggest thing we found now is click and collect or delivery slots are 2-3 weeks ahead of time because they don't have enough drivers out there. So I would be looking at doing that. And then just, generally, if you think about things like clothing companies, they could be manufacturing masks now. There's a massive shortage. And with the Czech Republic shows by having masks, it does slow the rate down. We're not saying it's foolproof, but there's advantages there. And a live example is a beer company in South Africa. They stopped manufacturing beer because in South Africa, you can't buy alcohol either or cigarettes during this lockdown period. So it's very strict. And so the beer company are now manufacturing antibacterial gel. I mean, a great example there of what you need to do. Now, I know there's some people saying there, but I'm an electrician or I'm a plumber. How does that work in my field? Well, plumbing services, electrical services, if it's an emergency, is still allowed in the country. But offer online training, offer someone how to fix a leak on YouTube, and then ask for a donation, show them how to change a plug. People are stuck at home now, but still want to get on and do things. And I think this is a way of, one, getting your business ahead of everybody else and just showing that you care too. And then, when things come back on, they'll remember you and remember your company. So that's what I'll be doing. Identify the need and solve the problem.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for your perspective on that. And buying property right now, is it a good investment? And for those who are interested, how can they get involved?
Right. Yes. Another great question again, Bert. Buying property now, yes. Is it a good investment? Yes. At the moment now, we have a situation where I guess it depends on where you are. So 2 examples is I've got 2 clients in Hong Kong. One has got cash, one hasn't. Now, for the one that hasn't got cash, probably buying a property now is not the best movement for her. Okay. For the other one, definitely is. If you have cash, if you're able to hold that cash for a while and wait for lending, then it's going to be a great opportunity. There are still lenders out there, but we don't know for how long. So run the numbers, make sure that you're buying it under value. That would be my main suggestion. And personally, if I had property, I would hold it, which I'm doing now. I wouldn't sell any of my properties, because it's going to be good in the future. And the banks have reduced some of the lending, but this will change. I mean, they're just reacting at the moment. They need to see how this develops and how long the lockdown continues worldwide.
Okay, so for those that already have property, I mean, should they go ahead and refinance? I mean, given the low interest rates at the moment.
If you can, yes. I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it. The banks are offering mortgage holidays. So what I would do, and what my team have done, and my wife's been very involved in, is contacting all the banks. So open up communication. That's vital. Okay. And see if they have the holiday available. It's normally for 3 months. I would do that now while the government pressure is still on the banks to do that. This will then help if there are any delays in rent or no rent, that at least you're not paying out your mortgages. I will then definitely look at, yes, refinancing. The concern there is the loan to value. But if it's possible to get the lowest interest rates, then yes, by all means do that. And if you can even draw some money out of your properties, if there's lots of equity there, then take that out and invest it somewhere else. I was talking to my team and they suggested selling stocks and then rebuying it at a later stage. So again, diversification is important in these times. And for me personally, investing in Forex at the moment, just due to the current situation.
Oh, the Forex, is it something you just got in because of the pandemic or you've been inside?
Yeah, well, it's something that I've been looking at for the last 2 years. I enjoy keeping in contact with my students. And like yourself, I spoke to a student who was doing property and then stopped for a while because he was doing Forex. And the returns were outperforming the property market tremendously. So I started paper trading for a while. and then started drawing cash out of my different businesses to invest. And I must admit, it was probably one of the smartest moves I did, not knowing what was going on, to where we are now. So this is where I'm focusing most of my clients to put more money in. And a very good example is a student of mine who is in Hong Kong. She is a flight attendant and has now been grounded. She's been grounded now for the last 2 months. She will be grounded for the next 6 months and possibly lose her job. And if it wasn't for the Forex investment, she may have lost her flat, where she's living in Hong Kong. So again, you know, the idea of one business is in today's, and the way we move forward, is not good enough. We need to diversify. We need to have, you know, a strong portfolio in different areas and different businesses, more online and more passive, definitely. And yeah, and just to clarify, it's not stocks and shares, it's Forex, you know, which we're investing in.
Okay, I get it. I get it. So I think that's about it with questions. And has anybody in the audience got a question? You can just type it in the chat section. Oh, just give it 30 seconds max so people can type in their questions. Okay, let's see. Okay, so moving forward, if you want to get in touch with Anthony and get to chat a little bit more about real estate in the UK or in South Africa, and even Forex, then there's a link. I'm going to share this slide later after this webinar. So he's got his Hotmail email account and the Skype information as well. So for those who are attending this webinar and also members of Think Africa, you can get 18 minutes of his time for free, and you can get to discuss with him. I mean, what is it that you're looking forward to? So thanks a lot, Anthony, for your time and for sharing your perspectives at this time of a pandemic. So I hope we get to organize this with you again, and then we get into like in-depth details. Anthony, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I just lost you there for a few minutes. I'm sorry, Bert. My connection dropped out there. So you were saying?
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that, I mean, thanks for sharing these with us, and we hope to get in touch with you again in the future, maybe something more in depth.
Yes, most definitely. And as you can see there, you know, I'm offering a free call with everybody on Think Africa. By all means, please connect. Let's talk and let's help each other move forward and actually come out smiling at the end of this terrible situation we have in the world.
Okay, hope you stay to the end, because we have a game to play, a Corona game.
Oh, no, definitely. I'll go on mute and maybe pour myself a glass of wine, but I'll be listening.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so let's move on. So we're coming home. So the next speaker is, just a second, let me check who is. Yeah, so our next speaker is Reggie Rosen. Reggie, just a second, let me unmute you and.
Hi, Bert. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Reggie. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, okay.
And I'd like to thank the other two speakers as well as Solomon. Can't wait to hear what he's got to say as well.
Okay. Yeah, so Reggie, if you could go ahead and give us a little bit background about what you do before we
Okay.
go into the Q&A.
Good. We'll do that. So hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Reggie Roussan. My background is primarily in enterprise IT. So I spent sort of 30 plus years in the corporate environment, managing IT operations for companies or delivering services for kind of large multinational integrators. Spring forward from that, moved to Helsinki in Finland. As lots of us who live here know, the employment conditions aren't fantastic, especially for senior leaders in Finland if you don't speak the language and don't have a deep network. So I started my own company a couple years ago called Simple Tech Solutions, and we started out focusing on GDPR, or the General Data Protection Regulation, and helping small and medium-sized businesses become compliant and stay compliant. Now we are doing several different things. So we've had to diversify quite early on, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But as the slide shows, I'm a CTO for a startup, board member for the British and Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce, active in the Suomen Nuoritajat, in their network for migrant entrepreneurs, a technical advisor for a company in the startup ecosystem called The Shortcut, and a few other things.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for that background information. So let's jump straight into Q&A. So I mean, many people are working from home, and also some while having children. I mean, time management, it's more critical than ever. So how are you managing running all these businesses at this time? I mean, Simple Tech,
I would
E-Ready, and advisory.
I'd say that the business side is easy. Being the principal of homeschooling, that's a challenge. That's
Okay.
not something that that my background had prepared me for. Before as a matter of fact, I've worked with schools for quite a while, but never in this sort of capacity.
Okay.
So never directly delivering the educational services, as we would say. But it has caused me to have to plan really effectively. And many of you know I have a 6-year-old whose name is Reggie also. So sort of the star of my life.
Okay.
And 6-year-olds can't maintain. And most of my meetings, my virtual meetings, are an hour long. And if I can get him to focus for half an hour, that's a long time. So you have to be, have to think about putting your day into smaller chunks than I did before. So that's been one of the things, and then recognizing that he, a large part of his day is playing outside and being very active. So I don't have, I try to schedule stagger meetings so I have some time to interact with him. We can go outside. We can do certain things. One, it really helps me from getting unstuck from the chair, because I'm not sure many people are figuring out now that you work from home, you are definitely more sedative than you would be if you were going to the office and maybe you're walking downtown or doing whatever. You miss that. So, it's something as silly as loading Pokemon Go and playing that with him and with my stepdaughter has been really a fantastic experience, because they think we're out playing and I'm actually out getting my steps because I need to get some exercise for the day. But everybody's happy.
I see. Wow. Okay. It seems you've been doing good.
Yeah, it's been a pleasant challenge.
Yeah.
It definitely can be frustrating, but it's where we are, so we're dealing with it. And I think the kids are figuring out that now we're at a different period. Also, they recognize that this isn't status quo. So they, can be helpful as long as you can keep them from getting overly frustrated from not having anything to do. Luckily, there's been lots of also ebooks and lots of kids educational either things on TV or on the internet. Like Audible has opened up a wide range of free ebooks, and surprisingly, they will hold even younger kids' attention for quite a while, and they can be quite educational at the same time. One of the companies I work with is a gamification platform for education, and we are kind of announcing different games that kids can play in a free sense every day. So that's been helpful also.
Okay, thanks a bit. And for Simple Tech, most likely many businesses see GDPR as the least of their worries. So what is it you're doing different with marketing, retaining clients, and acquiring new clients?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, and one I was sort of touching on before. It's almost business as usual for GDPR for I would say the last year.
Okay.
In Finland, at least, small and medium-sized businesses haven't really embraced GDPR. I won't go into the reasons for that, but the primary reason for it mainly is lack of threat of being fined. So people aren't paying attention to it as much. So it caused us to diversify very early on, and that's why we do CTO as a service. It's why I help ed tech companies go to Africa. Those are things that I've had to do to keep the lights running. And a lot of times people are asking me now, how has this impacted your business? It's business as usual. As an entrepreneur, you're used to dealing with adversity. You asked the first speaker, whether or not there was going to be a pandemic. I've had a long career. I've been through all the swine flu, bird flu, SARS, all of these things that have happened before, plus big economic crises. So whether or not you are a corporation or an entrepreneur, you need to know that, there will be some hardships, and you need to be nimble. So from that perspective, and luckily, some of my other streams are picking up. Like the ed tech stream is really picking up because it's forcing all of the school systems to go digital. So whether it was a harder sell before, it's become a lot easier, if I could dare to use that word. So luckily, we were diversified, and I think all of the speakers before have spoke about that, and Anthony definitely touched on it. You need in the modern day, you need to have different revenue streams. And I'm not gonna, sort of say that we've got it cracked, and I'm definitely not looking for the next deal, because we are. But if I hadn't already diversified, I would be in deep trouble at the moment, because nobody is adopting new GDPR projects at the moment.
Okay.
Some of the things that I'm doing with my current GDPR customers, though, is really allowing them to, I'm not pressing them on making progress on their project, because they have bigger decisions that they need to make, and really trying to see if there's any other way that I can add value to them. If they have a problem and I can't solve it, it's someone from my network that can solve it. Because again, the two previous speakers have talked about how you need to be present for your current customers and your potentials.
Okay.
So I am still actively posting in LinkedIn and Twitter about COVID-19 and GDPR, because I do want to maintain that stream as well. And by providing that information, when people can now raise their head up above the water and go, okay, now we can take care of this. My hope is that they remember, this guy was providing this information at a difficult time.
I'm sure they'll do.
Yeah, he may know something about that.
Okay, so you now have increased presence on social media.
Yeah, I'm trying to maintain a presence. I'm not a heavy tweeter, definitely not like my president, and try to use LinkedIn at the right moments. But
Okay.
I am also using, you know, my LinkedIn to go deeper into the network to reach out to people to see where they are, not about GDPR, but for other digitalization items, because that's actually my core background.
Okay. And have you applied for any of these funding that's available at the moment?
I haven't yet, but I will.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, and I can provide some links to the group that I'll put them in the chat. Let me see if I can do that straight away. As well as I've sent a few forward, but we can.
Yeah, I think Solomon did share some with.
And I would also say
slide on that as well. So
the two that I just put in are, and this is for people in Finland, even more important than applying for the funding is these two sites. You can actually go out and look at government tenders, because the government is in not necessarily a panic, but they are looking for support for lots of different activities that they need to escalate now. They also are releasing tenders for 2021 and 2022. And so, which sort of is a positive, both negative. If you're not paying attention and they're letting proposals out for 2022, and it's in your field come 2022, that contract has already been given. It was given in 2020. So I highly recommend that people take a look at these two sites that I've just posted, and then I'll post some other sites on how to apply for the funding. One of the sites that I really recommend that you pay attention to and potentially join if you're an entrepreneur is one of the yrittäjät. So Helsinki, Vantaa, Espoo, or and because they all kind of lead to the Suomen yrittäjät, which is the and this is the Bert showing their link that explains multiple things for. It's really the information center for entrepreneurs. When you're part of the yrittäjät, you get easy access to this sort of thing. The other thing that they have done is that they've created a network for migrant entrepreneurs. And so we have a very active Facebook group, WhatsApp group, and we are actually talking to the political leaders of Finland to talk about specifically here are the issues that immigrant entrepreneurs are facing. So we had a quite active dialogue with the Minister of Finance of Finland. So and then that was quite good, and we will continue to do those sort of things. So, and which also kind of brings up, you know, what do you do? What should you be working on if you don't have customers? And I sort of look to, you know, the wartime. You know, what does the Army do when they're not at war? They prepare. And if you don't have customers, you know, you definitely need to be looking for them, but you need to be preparing yourself and practicing and educating yourself for the time when you do and are able to actively deliver services. So Anthony also talked about another good other opportunities to look for ways that you can engage yourself in active work now. But if you don't have those, you know, at your fingertip, definitely making sure that you are sort of honing your knife now.
Oh, okay. So that would be like you're adding new skills to your toolbox.
Yeah, adding that. So that's one of the things that I would.
Okay. Just one last quick question. Which books are you reading at the moment?
Books. At the moment, I'm actually more trying to read tenders than I'm reading books. Okay. The books I tend to recommend to people at any time is a book called Hostage at the Table. And it talks to, you know, it really teaches you how to create rapport very quickly, because it's written from a hostage negotiator. And you know, really insightful book. And the other book that I like to recommend is The Happiness Advantage.
The Happiness Advantage.
Yeah. Because I don't think that we focus on ourselves and making ourselves, and it gives real practical and concrete steps to the quick improvements you can make to increase your happiness. And that's one of the things that I think is also that you should be focusing on. And if you have employees, just as important as it is to take care of your customers, take care of your employees. One of my good friends is a CEO for a company, and what he's done is he's ordered coffee from a local roaster and having it delivered to his employee's house, just because they're used to getting that when they're at work.
Oh.
And just small things, simple things that you could be doing to make yourself right goes a long way. And that's the same thing with helping your customers. I would say one of the other things that, going back to the other question, is that look for new opportunities and new partnerships. I've been contacted by a lot of people from different parts of the world that are now willing to partner, where maybe before they had enough on their plate, they didn't need to do that. And if you can cement those relationships now, people will, continue them. So I would say definitely look forward to that, or be active in that.
I look forward to getting those book recommendations so I can share with everybody. And just let everyone, there's going to be a recording of this webinar. So for those who want to listen to later on, then that shouldn't be a problem. But let's take a few questions, 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Has anybody got a question?
And quickly, I just put in the link to how to apply for that business support.
Oh, okay.
And this is in English, and they actually offer it in Arabic and I think 14 different languages. I'm not sure if Swahili is one of those.
Yeah, I think if you go, at the bottom of the page, I think they have a helpline, and there's English, Finnish, Swedish, Swahili, and many other places as well. I think that's really good. Like a phone line you can call in.
Yeah. Now Dee has a question for me.
Okay.
And then now Dee has a question too, but I would want to.
There's a question.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say there's nothing specific. I would say look out for certain tools that are currently being promoted, because they come with some security risks. There's not a lot of options out there. I do have and have been using and testing like a webinar software like Zoom that is built on a more secure platform, because people come to me for more like cybersecurity things as well. You have to, this isn't in sort of starting this is probably the wrong time to start your GDPR journey, because you need a little background on what are sort of the pros and cons. I would say kind of quick tips is, if you're having big events, make sure that people can't see the audience list before the event. Making sure that you communicate if you're planning to share people's information. If a session is being recorded, that people have given consent to their voice either being recorded or their digital footprint being recorded. Those are sort of the things that you can make sure that you take care of.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think that goes to me as well.
It's for everybody, but it's not something that
as
as a reminder. The other piece of that is GDPR, and I'm in a few minutes of free consulting. The premise of GDPR is that anytime if data is compromised, you have to focus on what is the possibility of the rights of the data subject, which is you and I, of our rights being infringed upon.
Okay.
And quite frankly, if someone saw that I attended a Think Africa event, my rights really can't be infringed upon.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So, but if we were a different type of service, this could be maybe an issue. If this was maybe had to deal with mental health, if it had to deal with some sort of medical condition, it had to deal with some sort of something that is would really compromise the rights of the individual, then you really need to focus on those things.
Okay. Okay. Well. So thanks a lot, Reggie, for sharing your thoughts and perspectives and best practices with the audience.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we hope to have you again in the future, where we can go a little bit further into the topic.
No problem.
Hope you stay a little longer. There's a game in the end if we got time. Might take 2-3 minutes. So let's move on to our next speaker. Oops, it's going too fast. Yeah, it's Solomon, are you in the house? Let me unmute you. Just a second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. It was a wonderful conversation to hear.
Oh, okay. I'm happy you enjoyed it.
Yeah. How are you, Bert?
No, I'm doing good. Thanks. And you?
I'm very good. I'm really glad to be here.
Okay.
Thank you for the honor.
Okay. So, we're indeed honored to have you as well. So, could you give us a little background? About
Sure.
yourself?
My name is Solomon Nagash. I am an Ethiopian. I moved to Finland in 2004. It was roughly 15, 16 years ago.
Okay.
So for the better part of the decade, I was working for a car rental company as a team supervisor and the customer service side. And during those times, I was studying here. Basically, I came straight after high school from Ethiopia. So I did all of my university studies here in Finland.
I get it.
So I did my bachelor's and master's, and then after a while, I found out that I was somehow locked in some kind of a bubble. That was probably the best description I could put it.
Yeah.
There were so many places that I applied for a job outside the current industry, but I just did not get a chance. And then one of the other driving force was also the fact that I felt like I was in a bubble in that company. You sometimes, as a foreigner here in Finland, getting the job is a difficult task. But then, once you have excelled at your task, once you have done it for so many years, you realize that you're actually still in the same place. You don't really see any ladder up to explore many things, to take on more responsibilities. So in 2016, I was, in my opinion, I was at the perfect time of my life. No obligations, able to take some risks. So I decided to leave the corporate world and then started my own company. So now I've been running, and the first thing that came to my mind, I know it's completely something out of my field, but something that I was willing to explore was the restaurant industry.
Okay.
And I just took a blind leap and opened our first restaurant. That was in 2017.
Well,
that's in a nutshell.
Okay. And we know nowadays, restaurants have been ordered to close. So how has the experience been for you?
Um, it's actually been something that we were expecting to happen because many other countries were taking similar measures.
Yeah.
So even though we were not sure of the date, but ever since this chaos started, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So on March 16th, when the government gave us a recommendation to close all restaurants, we already decided to close already on that day for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And this was just the first time when when there was so much uncertainty in the guidelines.
Yeah.
They say that you can continue, but these things will be closed. They're trying to ratify the laws in a way it would allow them to close businesses. So we took that 2 weeks, 2 weeks off, and as we promised that we would be open on the 1st of April, already by then there were clear guidelines and structures on how to operate.
Okay. Okay.
So the customers literally stopped coming, but then we had to find different ways to continue the service. So if you look at it, aside from the fact that this is a food place, there's also a big part of customer service that is included, which is not really seen on the plate.
Mm.
So the first thing that we did was we assured people that we're open and we're open during our business hours, business as usual, nothing changed. And at the same time, we decided to have one of our staff deliver food for people who call online, who call us or who send us an order online.
Ah. That's
So we're already, when we opened, because we had that 2 weeks time, the 2 weeks off to find out what is going on and how are the governments going to apply new laws to affect the business. So we immediately had to make a shift and explore something new that we haven't done. Yes, there is this thing going on, there is a pandemic going on, but how do you make the service continue? Because this might be for a few weeks or a few months. I mean, nobody really knows. So the tactic that we chose to take was just to adjust ourselves and somehow maneuver with this chaos going on.
I see. I see. And the food delivery you're doing, is it just in the Helsinki area, or you do Espoo and Vancouver?
Right now, we've only done in Helsinki area, but we are also exploring the possibilities to deliver to Espoo and Vantaa, because we have a staff already. See, we also managed to keep the position. That's how we see it. The person who used to do the customer service in person, now since that task is no longer needed, has to do something else instead and keep on the customer service.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And now the restaurants now are being closed. I mean, as you mentioned, it might be weeks, it might be a couple of months. I mean,
Yeah.
Is there any assistance you're getting from the government to keep your head above water at this time?
Yes, and that was actually one of the good things that happened. Immediately when they started ratifying new laws, they gave out the opportunity for business owners to take some aid money for to cover the costs, and that really helped us a lot, because in a way it's not a loan. You don't give them the money back. They do give you the money, but at the same time they expect you to clearly see what you have done, to clearly show what you have done.
Okay, okay.
So it's a project. Basically, you tell them that, okay, you know what? Because of this Corona project right now, I need some money to cover for some of the lost sales.
Okay, okay.
And then in return, once you have done that, you have to give them a report on how everything was spent. So that was like one of the tactics that I really admired from the government side, because instead of just giving out the money, they also make you work for a project.
Okay, so where does insurance come in all this? I mean,
Oh, that's a very good question, Bert.
yeah, that cuts across.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, I have a habit of going through the insurance policies,
Yeah.
especially when this kind of pandemic happens. And it's actually a very interesting quote. They have a statement which says they do not cover in the case of a pandemic.
Hmm.
Insurance does not cover you on a pandemic because they are also under attack. Like everyone is under attack.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think I have that in my, yeah, I have that clause in my insurance. They call it force
Yeah.
majeure.
Yes, because this is something which is look, insurance gives you an insurance service for accidents or damages that are possible, like most likely to happen, or that are already known.
Yeah, yeah.
So they cannot give you any kind of insurance for the unknown. So basically, yeah, there's really is no help from the insurance.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
I checked on their website also, and it's actually one of the things that was on the front page. Just so you know.
Oh, okay.
We don't deal with you instead of Corona. Yeah.
Okay, just one quick. Is there any question from the audience? Anybody got a question? I do have some other questions, though, if no one is. Let's see who has a question. Okay, so while waiting for people to send in their questions here, I see you did share some slides about the funding, and I think that was
yes.
Oh.
Yes, actually, Reggie also touched on those points.
Yeah, I think it's this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a question that came in for you. So, can you?
When can we get delivery in Espo? Anytime, Reggie. Even right now. Even right now. For you, even right now. Yeah. It's a wonderful time to be alive and witness this, to be honest, because this also presents an opportunity. Everyone is hitting the reset button everywhere, not just here, not at home. It's all over the world. So, as a person, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a human being, we always aspire to adapt to the surrounding and make it through. So this creates an opportunity for new inventions and new ideas and new exciting journeys. It's just,
yeah, I think yeah, you have a second question from Miriam.
All right. How is the demand for online delivery for Ethiopian food? It's a great question too. Something that we have noticed within the past week that we've been operational is people have literally stopped coming. Maybe in a day we get at most 5 people who in person come to take their food. The rest, 98%, is home delivery through Wolt and Foodora, and mostly, and even from these two, about 98% goes through Wolt.
Okay.
So somehow there are still customers who are looking out, who are searching for our products and purchase them, but at the same time, in that intersection where our restaurant is physically located in Balila, there are about maybe roughly about 10 restaurants, and almost half of them are closed, which also cuts down the competition. So when people go to order online, they see fewer restaurants. So being available at this point, in my opinion, is it's worth it. Yes, our sales are dramatically low, but at the same time, there are other things that we can cut our costs from.
Okay. And have you I have one myself. Yeah, and is it possible now for a business to kind of refinance the loan or get like a holiday period? because of the low sales?
This is where I stand on that. If you have any financial agreement with the banks,
Yeah.
and if the banks are giving any kind of consideration due to the current event, and
Okay.
if that whatever they're offering is to your advantage, I say you take it.
Okay.
Because it's not so often that the whole world gets into this kind of dramatic shift in everything. So if it's worth it, if you think that this is to your advantage, why not? But more than refinancing, I would advise to focus on refinancing on the business operation itself.
Okay.
So this, when you look inward, this will give you an opportunity to expand, to make a shift, and even come up with a new product. For example, Anthony mentioned that beer companies in South Africa are making hand disinfectant.
Yeah.
And the same thing is happening here.
Okay. Okay. So part of the money you get from Business Finland can be used towards that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. That's
as they have given you this money to start out a new project.
Yeah.
And that project can always, you know, change to adapting situations. It should be very agile. It should be very it should be like water, you know, because since we're literally going to uncharted territory, we don't know what kind of challenges are in front of us. So if you have a rigid plan, I mean, back in the days, maybe that could work. You can have a plan for 5 years, 4 years, and you could literally maybe follow through it with 95% accuracy.
Yeah.
But now you can't even make that kind of predictions for 6 months.
Yeah.
Which literally arms you to be the kind of adventurer who's willing to compromise, who's willing to make very swift decisions and start on a new venture.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Solomon. I mean, we are glad, we're happy, we're privileged to have you here, and to the other speakers as well, Anthony, Reggie, and Elenia. I mean, we've done this in Miriam. How long did it take us to put this slides, talk to the speakers? I think 10 days. Yeah, 10 to 14 days. So. I mean, we are all in awe what's happening, but it's happening. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
So, so I'm going to share these slides with the audience. And Solomon, thanks for sharing these links with me, because a lot of other business people have been asking me as well. Some completely shut down, not knowing what to do.
Yeah, and also another key point here that I'd like to add, Bert.
Yeah.
This is also one of the biggest challenges that I have seen here in Finland.
Okay.
There are different kinds of services and funds available, but then that same website, the English version, has very limited information. So if there's a possibility for you to, if you come across, yes, we can all understand the English version, and we can try to understand most of the Finnish part.
Yeah.
But if there's a possibility to focus more on the Finnish side, even with the Google Translator, you'd get more information, and that's quite important thing.
Mm.
There's always an information loss when a Finnish service provider website is translated to English. It loses some components.
Okay. Yeah.
Which are also key important things, you know.
Yeah. I think also one other thing I noticed was, I mean, because we did also try to get in touch with someone from, you know, from Business Finland and OP Bank as well, because they were talking about some loan through Finvera, but I think they're so busy at the moment handling applications that.
Yes.
Yes, and I think one other good thing I've noticed in neighboring countries with Estonia is like this, they actually have a funding website for entrepreneurs, and every week they put up a webinar and they take questions. I think that's really, really good. Just take questions from the entrepreneurs. So I think that's about it for today. So what's next?
thank you all very much for sharing your valuable insights, especially about takeaway restaurants. That's been the topic of the day pretty much since the meeting started.
Okay.
I got so many new ideas.
Oh, okay. Okay, so a few last words, and I don't know if we have time for the game, but if people are still on, then we can have another 5 minutes for the game. So as we've heard from most speakers, it's time to pivot and adjust. So I did get it from the lips of all speakers. Adjust your business, take advantage of new opportunities, and continue building that relational and social capital. Now is the time to get online, and while building new relationships, also focus more on your existing clients and offer better value to them. So there's a time of crisis, and do not be a lone entrepreneur, but try to be part of something, part of a movement, part of an organization, so that you get to survive. Miriam, do you have something to add before we can move on and play our Corona game? Miriam, can you hear me?
Hi. Good.
Hi.
Yes. Hi, sir. The challenges of working from home and having many things. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for this. This was a very great session. I think even I, who is not entrepreneur as such, learned a lot. So thank you to the speakers and Gilbert for hosting this. Perhaps I don't want to talk much because I already spoke, but maybe I could give the floor to the other participants who might want to just share an experience or a learning they have had. Then maybe we could go to the final game program.
Okay, I think that's a very good one. So if you want to, let's try to get this in order. I think I don't know, should I unmute everybody, or if you want to say something, you raise your hand, but I don't see the hand raise icon here. So it's.
Yeah, I also didn't say it. Maybe you can unmute everybody and then.
Yeah, I'll unmute everybody, and people can just take their turns and share their experience. Okay, so a lot of background noise gonna come in, but everyone has been unmuted.
Hi, Bert. I just wanted to say that it seemed to be in the right-hand corner. You could raise your hand, which I raised a few times, but I guess you didn't see that.
Okay, I'm gonna check that just to...
Just a question to Solomon, if you don't mind. Just out of curiosity, do you find, or is it the case in Finland that the government is speaking to businesses first and letting you guys know beforehand about what changes are happening or what the future is holding for you, or are you finding out in public?
Pretty much, there has been, because even from the government point of view, they're tweaking their decisions every now and then. So there was a period of time when the information flow was not really accurate. You read something on the news today, but then the next morning you go check the websites. It's not updated yet. So,
okay.
But when it comes to the restaurant case, it's been all over the news since the beginning, because that was the main industry that they would like to shut first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. I know I got a client in Hong Kong, as I said, and restaurants are allowed to operate there, but only 50% capacity and a meter and a half apart at any given time.
Exactly.
But in South Africa,
you're so naughty. Don't come and talk. You have been so naughty. You know that.
It's the same thing here. Restaurants are allowed to operate. Unlike South Africa, restaurants are allowed to operate, which was a good thing. Because when you shut down your restaurant just like that, we're not talking about the sales that you lose after the day that you closed. It's also the inventory that you have in the freezer, in the fridge, all the stocks coming, all the prepaid event payments. So it really affects that whole network.
Found it on my table.
Yeah. Cool.
It's the fact that we were allowed to work as a takeaway restaurant, this was a good thing. But at the same time, Anthony, there's a catch, because right now we are selling through this courier companies. There are two of them here in Finland, and these food courier companies they take their own provision. So earlier, when the restaurant was working on a full capacity, that percentage, it was okay. It's anywhere between 25 to 30, depending on which company you choose. So it's like a third of your sales goes to that service.
Okay.
Which means you from the rest of the money that is left to you, you have to be able to fit in all the expenses.
Sure.
So that was one of the main reasons why we decided immediately to start delivering ourselves, in addition to these companies, because there's a reason why they charge you that much. It's because they have the clientele, and they have the whole payment system figured out, and it's a fancy looking software, and it works very well.
That's good to know.
You see, so you are forced to be creative. You are forced to go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But I say this really is a good opportunity also to venture out and do something completely new, like starting a hand treatment company, for example. You know, that's what's on the market, and as an entrepreneur, you go where the market is.
Yeah, I think there's
Can you hear me, Ben?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I think.
And Anthony, can you hear me too?
Yeah, there's a message here from Reggie just saying Yango does delivery as well.
It's not. Yes, Yango has started doing delivery. Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not only Yango; it's all the transport industry. I have seen a taxi driver come pick up food and deliver it. Because it's, as long as that person is driving, his own taxi, he has the right to, when it's quiet, he has the right to work for Wolt or Foodora or for any of the carriers that enable this service.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's good to know.
So Anthony earlier mentioned that the transportation business needs drivers right now, and it's very true, because since everybody is ordering everything from home, it has to be somehow delivered to them.
Yeah. Okay, let's say, yeah, who else want to say something before we go into the game? I'm so excited about the game. I think everyone has been.
Maybe a quick question to all the entrepreneurs or the speakers who said, what do you see as the biggest opportunity after the crisis? Like, if somebody, where will the biggest demand be? As Solomon just said, that entrepreneurs go to where the demand is. So what do you see as where will the demand be? It's a year, 2 years from now.
That's a very good question, Miriam. Remember earlier I mentioned that earlier as companies you could make plans for 3 years and 4 years, but right now you can't even make that kind of projection, as I don't know.
Okay.
It's very interesting, but it's the medical industry is quite tempting right now, but then that's where everybody is too.
Yeah.
So
okay.
At least it's a very difficult question, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think technology and online, I think it's going to be a major infrastructure. And I think, for example, in South Africa, I've been speaking to friends for so long of working from home, and they all said it's not possible. And with the lockdown, it had to be possible. And so we have guys in the insurance industry, normal medical stuff as staff-wise, working from home. So it's that kind of delivery of better fiber, better computer systems, a home office. I think so. Building trades, creating a home offices for me in South Africa would be, my advice to local people is allowing people to stay at home more, because it can be done. Go in once a week or twice a week for meetings, but the rest of the time doesn't have to be commuting. I have friends commuting, an hour and a half each way, spending time in traffic. There's no need to anymore now, and the lockdown in our country has proved that. So yeah, I'll be focusing on that, and then more passive income would be my next, obviously, choice.
Okay. So who else has a comment or a question? Okay, so let's see. This is a game still in the development phase.
I'm very excited, Bert. Very excited.
Bert, I'm sorry, before your question, I think there's a question from Bridget.
Oh, okay.
General question. What we think about home grocery deliveries?
Brilliant.
Well, I must say for us, it's been great. We had a fresh box delivered a few days ago, and quite amazing. Guy arrived, masked, put the box down, walked away. We picked the box up. And so for us, it just feels we're staying at home, therefore we're keeping our family safe, but also we're not going out and exposing anybody else in case we have the virus too, you don't know. So for me, I think that's a brilliant idea if you can do that yourself, and I commend everybody else that is delivering that service for us too, because that helps us out too. So for me, 10 out of 10.
I agree with you on that, Anthony. I think it's the future of commerce, because your customers literally save a lot of time and energy, and they can do more things very efficiently from the comfort of their own home, as long as they get the service. It's okay. Of course, there are some industries which require the customer experience to be present. For example, a five-star Michelin star dining place, it's the kind of place where you wouldn't go just for the food, it's also for the whole experience, for the ambience and the music and everything. But aside from that, pretty much every industry which is not delivering, which is not bringing this service straight to the customers, in my opinion, would have a hard time surviving this.
Okay, good. Now it's game time. So, well, Reggie talked about games earlier, so I hope he can get an ad for this, so people can stick to the regulation, how to do the hygiene properly. So it's still in its early phases.
But sorry, Bert, just back to that previous point, I think drone delivery is going to be the next big wave.
Good.
So sorry, I won't cloud your game discussion.
Okay, so thanks for that input, Reggie. So we're still working on this game, so it's just something that came to mind, about a week ago. So we have two teams here, and as we all know, we are not winning the fight against Corona right now. So we have a Disease United FC, just same as a football club. So Disease United Football Club playing against Humans Disunited Football Club. So on the right-hand side, we have the Humans team, and further right, you have the substitute bench. So Disease United, they have very few players on the bench. And then the Humans, they have many more. So the question is, if you're to be the coach of the Humans team, can you make 3 changes so that we can have a fighting chance against the Disease United? I hope the instructions were clear.
You have the egg.
No, I don't have an egg.
So why you had?
Are we changing the players? Are we changing the movements?
No, we're just changing the players.
Okay.
And you change the players,
She
and
just took it
then you try to explain why did you substitute this person for that person.
Okay, I'm busy. I'm in wait.
Yeah. So who wants to go first? You're not changing anything on the other side, on the Disease United team. Your team is okay.
Sub Netflix tip for.
I'll go first, Bert.
Oh, okay.
So I'll pull out fear, misinformation, and prayers and replace them with leadership, hand washing, and hospital supplies.
Okay, so
If I got the instructions correct.
yeah. So why are you substituting those three players? Put it that way.
Well, I think fear is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
It's fed by misinformation.
Okay.
And not that I don't like prayers, I just like action with leadership.
Okay, makes sense. And further on into the game, I mean, are you going to make any more changes or?
Oh, I thought I only had 3.
Yeah, I mean, like further on. I mean, it goes on. You've made 3 changes, but further on, do you plan to make any changes?
Oh, I would, start to remove some of the bigger on the human side. Let's see here. I'll take out the chloroquine and put in vaccines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Eventually, we have to come out of quarantine.
Yeah. So eventually, if we have a vaccine, then there will be no need for medication.
Yeah. And you always need toilet paper, so you can't really remove them.
Yeah, but it's caused a lot of fighting.
It has. And I guess lockdown and quarantine, you definitely could pull those.
Okay. Wow, that's
as the fear subsided and we replace it with leadership and vaccine and
yeah. So what kind of leaders you think we can bring in? I mean,
it depends on when and where you're talking about. I mean, Finland has a very different leadership situation than the U.S. does. So, but people who are definitely more fact-based and more scientific-based.
I see.
Ones that don't play into fear and misinformation.
But let's look at the case of the U.S., for example. I mean, not leaders in this case, but influencers. I mean, if they have to leverage the following of their celebrity, would that help?
Well, I think the even in before the pandemic, the celebrities were speaking out against the current leadership.
Okay.
And that hasn't had as much impact as people would have been hopeful. I mean, you can look at Bill Gates. He's been talking about this sort of thing was going to happen for a long time. So, but all these crises, they wouldn't be crises if you really would predict them and prepare for them.
Yeah.
So nobody's paid attention. But that's just mine. I'm sure other people have other intelligent views on how which players they'd switch out.
Okay, so who else want to be the coach for the humans and make some changes? Why are the entrepreneurs and businesses so silent? Somebody should say something.
All right, I'll go.
Okay, good.
Okay. So,
please introduce yourself.
Solomon here. Solomon Nagash from Addis Kitchen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Then I will change. misinformation with leadership, and then you have prayers and lockdown. Well,
Okay.
the prayer, I'll probably leave the prayer there, because as people need some time to reflect on and connect with whatever guidance they need.
Yeah.
But then chloroquine definitely changes with vaccine.
Right
Because
now or late at some later phase.
as soon as
Vaccine
there's
wouldn't be out until next year.
well, whichever one makes it out first. Because you see, Bert, in our lifetime, especially me, you, our age people, we
Yeah.
kind of lived somehow a very peaceful life. There has not been, like, this kind of really dramatic world events. Like, we did not go through World War II or something major, for example, in my personal experience, for example. So most of this disease, somehow vaccines were found. I mean, there are also other diseases that people die from. It's just that this one has become the major one right now.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be what I would do.
Okay. Well, it's good to get like different opinions and what changes should be made. Okay. And yeah, who is up next? Who wants to be the coach? Make 3 changes and win.
I can't see.
Okay, please go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Hello?
yeah, hello.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, this is Theo. I'll go with taking out toilet paper, taking out fear, and taking out misinformation,
Okay.
and then putting in hospital supplies,
Yeah.
leadership, and maybe vaccine if it works. But I wouldn't want to be part of the people who would be the first batch of testing it out. But for those it's gonna work for, it's all good. I'll put it there. We might have a fighting chance on that.
Okay. So how do we find people to test the vaccine on?
I'm sure it's already been tested right now, so there are lots of volunteers who are willing to do that. But I don't think I'm quite risk averse to something like that for now, personally.
Okay. Thanks for your input. That was really. I'm noting these down, and there should be a way to award points, based on certain answers the system thinks is kind of correct. Okay. So, any other coach out there? Because I still see 10 people in the room. So somebody, okay. Yeah, I think Anthony's hand is up, so I should unmute.
Thank you. Am I in?
Oh, yeah.
I've been chatting from the sidelines now for the last 10 minutes. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all good. Yeah, it's a tricky one. But you said the vaccine is not available now, but that would be my first kind of push that person out into the game. Social distancing, definitely. Hand wash, yes. And then we become with the one that I think is going to be very controversial at this point, which is free money, because it's fiat. It's been printed in any case, so let's provide it to the man. But yeah, the main thing to win the virus: vaccine, social distancing, and washing of hands. However, if it makes everybody feel better, free money.
Yeah, but after free money comes inflation.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's another debate. I think we should have another seminar. That's another hour of talk or 2 hours of talk, because yeah, it's all relative. We could remove everything in one fell swoop. We work together as a country and a world. So I agree, but I have to disagree in this case. But yeah, that's another debate, another time.
Okay. All right.
We're trying to stop riots and people going, like they did in the movie Quarantine. We're trying to stop that kind of looting happening. So yeah, money will help.
Okay. Anthony, thanks a lot for your input. I'm gonna note that down. Use it for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
I need this because we have to somehow come up with a point system later on, because
Sure.
the idea behind this was that the instructions that comes out from government, people are just like, yeah, we know that. But you think if people are playing a game they're stuck at home, they're playing a game on their phones, on their tablets, and somehow unconsciously, these steps stick in their heads. Like you get into your home, first thing you wash your hands. So we're gonna add those as well. Like, hey, you just got home, what are the steps to take? And then you can play the game with your kids. I think it's just a better way of, teaching them what is it they have to do.
Most definitely. And
Yeah.
sorry, just to interrupt. In South Africa, the suggestion is if you come back home again, you take all your clothes off, you wash your shoes, and then have a shower before you attend to any of your family members. So it's been a completely, disinfecting process before you enter back into your family fold.
Oh, I didn't think that was actually happening. I saw some videos about that.
I know we've been doing it. It's been strange. I mean, I even went and I thought I was a bit strange. I went outside my car and sprayed all my door handles. I saw some clip in England with guys walking around touching doors. But it is, you don't know what you've touched. And the thing is, we face it so many times. We do all these things naturally without thinking about it. And one of the clips was just wash your hands every 20 minutes. And you're thinking, that seems excessive. But if it means it saves your life or saves your family. My mom's 80. She's more vulnerable. So it's that concern for a person older than me. Why not just wash your hands more? So we make it a bit of a game in the house. We got Alexa. We say, Alexa, remind us. And we'll go and wash our hands or do things like that. So it's a bit of more fun and game with the kids as well. So, but they understand the virus, which is important. Educate the kids, definitely.
Okay. So any other coach out there? We need one or two last opinions, and then we can call it a day.
Come on, guys, don't be shy.
It's a game. Okay, in the absence of any other person, so okay. I think we can call it a day. And one more time, I want to thank everybody for getting on board. So you'll be hearing from Think Africa. Yeah, because we'll be organizing more business webinars. And we wish you all a wonderful evening, and stay safe and stay strong.
Thank you very much, Bert.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the Easter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it was great to meet you all.
Yeah.